I'm Felicia Shakiba, and this is CPO Playbook, where we solve a business challenge in every episode. Now, you know we love talking about the challenges that keep business leaders up at night. And today we're tackling a big one: the messy, high-stakes world of leadership evaluation during private equity acquisitions. Private equity firms don't just buy companies, they buy futures. But here's the kicker: they don't always know what they're getting in terms of leadership. You've got a team in place that's been running the show, but now a new owner is stepping in with a growth agenda. So how do you assess leadership before the ink dries? And most importantly, how do you do it without completely destabilizing the company you just bought? To help us break this down, I've invited Vikash, an expert in private equity deals who's been on the side of these transactions, analyzing leadership fit and making the tough calls that determine whether or not an acquisition will thrive. Vikash, welcome to the show.
Thank you for inviting me in.
It's our pleasure. Private equity firms are known for being highly data-driven. When evaluating a company during an acquisition, leadership is often described as important. But what does that actually mean in your world? What makes leadership a deciding factor in the deal?
See, leadership, in my opinion, can make or break any deal. So when my clients go into such deals, right, the first set of people who they have to evaluate, who they have to kind of gel with, right, is the leadership team. So that includes typically owner, operator, or the CEO and C-level team. And they are the ones who really are privy to the deal first for a long time. And the interactions happen on a continuous basis during the due diligence process. And you get to know them. You get to know whether, how much of firepower they have inside to make the deal kind of success, right? So, and what kind of personalities they have, you understand after several rounds of interaction with them. That is very critical.
You've been through many acquisitions. So what are some early warning signs during due diligence that the leadership team of a target firm might not be the right fit for the next stage of growth?
See, the ideal situation is that the leadership team is not only enthusiastic about the deal because they are getting a lot from it, right? But also they have the firepower inside to take it to the next level, right? Which is hard to kind of fully understand during the initial phases of the due diligence process. But you get like signs and signals, and there are ways to do that when you are informally interacting with them, making them assured that this deal will go through. So once they're assured, they're more likely to come out with how they are perceiving this transaction and how they see themselves going forward in the transaction. But those kind of non-verbal cues you have to be kind of ready to capture. And from the acquirer team, it's very important to have people who are kind of experienced and skilled to kind of note those cues and assess the situation in the right way.
And when you talk about nonverbal cues, can you provide an example or two that you've experienced with leadership where you thought, oh, these are particular nonverbal cues that are, bringing up warning signs or warning flags?
So the basic cues I've experienced is, when you talk about how long they have been in process of selling the company. So some companies, they are only few months into the process. They get like very high attention from the owners. Some are several years into the process. Their people are exhausted. The executive management who have been involved, right, and they have been kind of thinking about an exit, and that exit timeline has moved for them. So you would see they are kind of very eager to consummate the transaction and get out, versus someone who sees it as a 5-year engagement, 3-year engagement, or beyond it. So when as acquirer, when you come in, you have to be kind of coming in with a specific, like you have to tell the acquiree that we want you to be part of the team for a specified period of time, like 3 years, 5 years minimum. We want that kind of commitment to stabilize the book, right? And you would hear that kind of reaction. Oh, yes or no.
We'll be right back.
The pace of change in the world of business is fast, and that drives incredible complexity for the world of human resources.
Welcome to the HR Data Labs podcast, a series of conversations with experts inside and outside the world of HR on how to innovate, measure, and evolve our practices.
Our goal is to help provide you with practical examples of how HR has to change to meet the complexity of the business environment.
Every week, we'll talk to new and different voices on all aspects of HR.
And at times, we'll get irreverent.
Silly even.
And sometimes geek out on the data and technology that underlie the processes that drive the world of HR.
But the conversations are always insightful and fun. So please, enjoy the HR Data Labs podcast.
Back to the show. So it's a little bit similar to putting a house on the market.
Yes.
So if the house stays on the market for a little too long, then people are wondering, why hasn't it got bought yet?
Yes.
Right?
Yes. And also, like, they may have gone through several such due diligence processes. So they have exhausted their energy. They, once you are first time into the market, you feel, every company feels they are like the prime target. They are the, ripened kind of fruit that they are putting out in the market, versus what you get from the other side when you go into the due diligence process, challenges, which is like normal way, as you put it. It could be in the real estate side. It could be in other asset sales side as well.
There's a perception that private equity firms just come in and clean house, but you've said that's not the case. What's the strategy behind deciding who stays and who goes?
The strategy, it depends on what you are doing, right? And what kind of acquisition you are making. If the acquisition is of a distressed firm, right, something must have gone wrong. So that's why they are distressed. So you know that, okay, certain functions, or maybe across functions, there are issues, right? It could be with the finance function. It could be with the operations. Could be anywhere. Or at the top, the company's direction was not set right, execution was poor, or client-facing functions were not performing well. So that is one thing you have to consider. It could be high-performing company, and the owners, they are just they run their race. Now they want to exit, right? So it's obvious that when they're coming on the table, that they would want an exit within finite time. The management team per se, if the company has been performing well, management team, to move them out may not be the right strategy, but to provide them with right kind of new environment or tools could be the strategy to take them to the next level once you define that strategic direction. So it all depends on what kind of companies that you're acquiring. But right sizing is one of the considerations, definitely.
Right. And I know that you kind of mentioned that leaders need fuel left in the tank to take the company to the next level. And you've kind of touched on burnout and exhaustion. How do you assess whether an existing leadership team has what it takes to drive the company's growth post-acquisition, especially because I know that when you're just meeting leadership teams, they're putting their best foot forward. So how do you sift through the authenticity of whether or not they're really ready for that step?
So it depends, right? You have to invest time with the leadership to determine who buys into the future vision of the acquirer, right? Acquirer.
That makes sense. Right.
So then you interact, you don't come with a preconceived notion, although the broad mandate for any private equity firm is, okay, we may have to right size the acquiree. It is always on the table, but that's not the only way to make the company perform better for the future, because it also depends on which industry they're in, how hard it is to hire new employees, what the culture of that organization is, and how it will kind of affect the other people who stay back in the organization, right? So it's not a straightforward process. It has to take time. So during the due diligence period, heavy interaction between both sides management has to happen, right? And then from there, the interaction with the next level managers, if possible, also need to happen to determine what is the right way to go, who wants easy exit from that point, and who have the enthusiasm and who buys into the future vision within a finite time.
So sometimes the existing leadership is deeply embedded in the company's culture. And I know you kind of started talking about culture because it is a really big, interesting, messy, hairy topic. But their style may not align with private equity's growth strategy. So have you seen cases where keeping the existing team ended up being a mistake? And if so, what were the consequences?
Not seen many cases, but there was a case where we had acquired a good size company.
What does good size mean to you? What is
$1.5 million?
Okay.
$1.5 million size company, and it was a very tight knit company, organically grown. Everybody knew everyone by families and names, etc., etc. Very good size company, but still like very family type culture, being acquired by a larger firm that I was part of. And so there I saw a lot of such instances where people, after the merger, within a few months, people started leaving on their own because they like the culture of the acquirer. Because it was a larger firm, they thought that, their voice was not being heard, and there were other things, including what was promised versus what was delivered during that time. So it all played into that, and we saw that acquisition not successfully going through for several months.
So it sounds like the trust of whoever is acquiring the business is really important. The transparency, the building trust, the allowing or making sure that people's voices are being heard. These are essentially retention strategies.
Definitely. And what happens many times is the speed with which the voices are heard, the speed, the mechanisms in the previous organization where you could walk very easily into someone's office versus maybe distance, right? The acquirer, and they, by that time, if a concerted effort is not made to kind of continuously gel the culture, then it may go haywire.
Private equity firms often bring in their own tested leaders, but what about leadership development? Are there scenarios where investing in coaching rather than replacing leaders has paid off, or not so much?
The leaders who stay, if they have to go from one level of performance to the next level, yes, organically they could do it over a period of time, but private equity is also time bound, right? So they want to get results, or they want to show results within a specified time. It could be 1 year, it could be 3 years, it could be 5 years. And then, of course, the plan is for all this time frame. How do you achieve that? You achieve that by working with other companies or getting help from outside. And those things definitely are high on agenda for right kind of, private equity acquisitions.
Yeah, and that makes sense. I mean, I understand private equity, they only have so much amount of time to spend the money that they borrow. And so that turnaround time, the faster they can do it with the greatest value, I mean, that is the challenge from their perspective. Is that right?
Yeah, many times what also happens is when during the due diligence process, if they have identified a certain need for training, right, or coaching, at the time of day zero or first month of after the acquisition, you would see them lining up people for coaching and advice at different levels. So they don't wait that much. It's all very kind of highly concerted effort.
We've also talked about the fear of the unknown, and it's one of the biggest challenges for the employees of an acquired company. How do you get the leadership team and their direct reports on board with the new direction? Because that, I think, is more of a make or break, right, in the due diligence process.
Yeah, so like many times when the acquisition due diligence is happening, of course, the executive management knows, or part of executive management knows what is going on. Then more people start knowing when the due diligence goes deeper. From the time that a decision is made that, okay, we are serious about acquiring these, and these all other things have to be kind of tick marked before the acquisition, like final decision of acquisition happens. So then you go and start talking to a broader set of audiences, like line managers or divisional heads, etc., depending on the size of the acquisition. But you don't, at any point before the acquisition is finalized, everybody in the organization would not know that this is happening because it's not a public knowledge. But once that happens, yes, the process is very quick through the town halls, through the skip meetings, through the divisional meetings or different level meetings, right? The overall strategy is percolated down, right? And that's where external help is also needed, because there could be organizational resources, but they may not be sufficient. It's about finding that balance, and timing is also important.
We'll be right back. Back to the show. And timing is also important, you said? Mm-hmm. Yeah. You've worked on acquisitions where the target company's leaders have never been through this process before. How does that impact the transition, and what strategies actually work to mitigate resistance of those leaders going through this process for the first time?
Yeah, so this could be, situations where the owner started a company, they expanded through the management, and they have worked to develop it. The 30 years are a good amount of time, right? It could be intergenerational type of company where they didn't have such acquisitions, but they just grew organically, or without any external acquisitions themselves. So in those cases, um, they have a set way of doing things. So we, so the acquirer, private equity or other firms, they have to be understanding the culture aspect, management culture, as well as the culture which has been kind of percolated down across the organization. And they have to be kind of respectful to the acquiree management, and at the same time they have their own way also. So there has to be a balance which has to be kind of stricken, and that's where the experienced people from both sides, especially on the acquirer side, could bring those kind of life skills, or nuanced people skills are very important, because it's easier to do like quantitative due diligence, but qualitative due diligence on the people is the hardest. And for any acquisition to be successful, that is like the better one, I would say.
A lot of times, even the employees who survive the transition end up leaving months later due to uncertainty. What are some of the best practices that you've seen that actually help retain high-performing talent even after the acquisition?
During the due diligence process, at the time of merger, as well as after, for several months, even during the first year, the key is the communication, clear communication as to what is expected from the both sides, right? And what is in it for the people who will survive the acquisition, right? How they should see themselves, different things in the future state of things. So that is important. It could be incentivizing them. It could be just the qualitative nature of the job that changes. It could be more ownership. It could be defining KPIs in a right way and getting everyone's buy-in.
Like cross-functional collaboration?
Cross-function collaboration also helps. People also are very clear about where they are going with the acquisition, so they don't fear their job is at stake, and they want to contribute in the best possible manner. Because after the acquisition time, the first year is the most critical year. After that, it starts to settle down.
If you had to create a bulletproof checklist for assessing and aligning leadership during a private equity acquisition, what are the top 3 things that you would ensure to include?
So I would say the leadership has to have the enthusiasm for the future state, right, after the acquisition. So enthusiasm, once that happens, it percolates down across different levels in the organization. And the second thing is that they need to have that firepower left. That assessment is important along the process. At the management level, since they are very much involved during the due diligence process, it can happen more or less during the time of due diligence. But post acquisition, that process continues for the rest of the organization.
Well, Vikash, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a pleasure, and thank you for helping us all learn more about this transition between due diligence and leadership into a purchase or an acquisition. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Felicia, for giving me a chance, and I hope to continue the conversation.
If today's episode captured your interest, please consider sharing it with a friend and leaving a review. To learn more about how CPO Playbook can support you or a leader you know with executive coaching or organizational transformation, visit us at cpoplaybook.com. Your support as a subscriber means the world to us, so thank you for tuning in. I'm Felicia Shakiba. Let's connect on LinkedIn.